Looking at what remains of a place like this, you get a strange, unsettling feeling. This is Body, California, a city etched into the Sierra Nevada mountains, over 8,300 feet above sea level. In photographs from the late 19th century, we see a sprawling settlement, a testament to ambition and raw hope. Today, it is a silent ruin. The wind moves through buildings left just as they were, past dusty windows and across streets that once echoed with the sounds of wagons, pianos, and thousands of people. It feels as if we're looking at a giant, masterfully crafted stage set after the actors have all gone home. The main question that forms in your mind is simple, and at the same time, terrifying. Where did all the residents disappear to? Have you ever wondered why some towns appear almost overnight only to vanish just as quickly? This isn't just a story about gold. This is the truth about the empty cities of the 19th century. Our story begins with a familiar spark, gold. But the version of the story that is often told, a simple, explosive discovery, crumbles to dust when you take a closer look. In 1859, a group of prospectors, including a man named W.S. Bodie, found traces of gold in these hills. Tragically, Bodie himself would perish in a blizzard that very winter, never seeing the town that would carry a version of his name. For more than 15 years, that was it. The settlement remained a small, isolated mining camp, its potential unrealized. But in 1875, a chance event changed everything. A mine cave-in exposed a massive, profitable body of gold-bearing ore. This was not just a few nuggets in a stream. This was the motherlode. By 1877, the Standard Company had purchased the claim, and the secret was out. The news spread. Prospectors, merchants, and dreamers descended on this remote valley. The population exploded. Within just a few years, Bodie was transformed from a handful of cabins into a city. While sensational reports from the time claimed a population of 10,000, and that figure is often repeated, most historical eyewitness accounts suggest the peak was closer to 8,000 people. It happened so fast that the town was hastily thrown together, a chaotic, vibrant, and dangerous city built on a foundation of pure gold. This was the boomtown phenomenon in its purest form, a community undergoing sudden, explosive growth, fueled entirely by the promise of a single, finite resource. To understand Body, you have to look for the fabric of its daily life. At its height, the main street stretched for over a mile, lined with everything a city could need: hotels, banks, multiple newspapers, and 4 volunteer fire companies. In a surprising sign of progress, it became one of the first towns wired for electricity, used to power the advanced stamp mills that crushed ore day and night. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. What is much more frightening to consider is the town's other side. Body was infamous. At its peak, there were a staggering 65 saloons, gambling halls, a notorious red light district, and opium dens were common. This raw, violent environment gave rise to the phrase, "the bad man from Bodie," a reputation for lawlessness that rivaled Tombstone and Deadwood. It was a place where fortunes were made, at the card table as often as in the mines, and where disputes were settled with a gun. Yet, it is a mistake to only see the chaos. Life was more complex, and what about the signs of civilization? Amidst the saloons, a community was forming. People built churches, like the Methodist Church that still stands today. They built a school. The town supported a diverse population, including a significant Chinatown, where Chinese immigrants ran their own businesses. Life here was a constant battle between building a home and chasing a fortune in one of the harshest environments imaginable. The winters were brutal, a stark reminder of the isolation and danger that every resident faced. Just as quickly as it boomed, Body began to bust. The very thing that gave the town life was also the agent of its death. By the early 1880s, the mines were starting to run out. The rich veins of gold and silver became harder and more expensive to work, and the output dwindled. This is the classic, unsettling logic of the boom and bust cycle. A settlement built on a finite resource is living on borrowed time. As the gold became scarce, people began to leave, lured away by rumors of new strikes in Montana and Arizona. The decline was accelerated by other factors. A major fire in 1892 destroyed a large part of the business district. Then, the national economy played its role. The Panic of 1893, a severe economic depression, crippled mining operations across the country, making it even harder for Body to survive. By the early 1900s, the population had collapsed. The Body Railway was abandoned in 1917. By 1920, the United States Census recorded only 120 people living here. A final, devastating fire in 1932 sealed the town's fate. Mining operations officially ceased in 1942, and the last residents departed, leaving the town to the silence. Now we come to the truth promised in the title. The story of Body, as dramatic as it is not unique. It is a case study of a widespread phenomenon. Thousands of towns suffered the same fate for a handful of powerful, interconnected reasons. They weren't abandoned because of a great mystery. They were the logical, if brutal, outcomes of an era defined by resource extraction and industrial expansion. The most common reason was, just as in Body, resource depletion. Take Ashcroft, Colorado. In the early 1880s, it was a silver boomtown with over 2,000 residents and 20 saloons, briefly rivaling nearby Aspen. But within 5 years, the silver veins proved to be shallow, and the boom collapsed. By 1939, its last resident had passed away, officially making Ashcroft a ghost town. However, it wasn't always about mining. The other great engine of the 19th century expansion, the railroad, was just as capable of creating and destroying towns. Consider the story of Terrace, Utah. Founded in 1869, it was a critical division point for the Transcontinental Railroad, with a large roundhouse and a population that may have reached 1,000 people. The town's entire existence was dependent on the railroad. But in 1904, a new railway line called the Lucin Cutoff was built, creating a more direct route that completely bypassed Terrace. Almost overnight, the town lost its reason to exist. The railroad moved its operations, and the residents followed, leaving almost nothing behind but a cemetery in the desert. When the reason for a town's existence vanishes, so too can the town itself. Returning to Body, we see more than just decaying wood. We see the fragile nature of communities built on a single dream. Body is preserved today in a state of arrested decay, meaning it isn't restored but simply kept from falling down. The interiors are left as they were, stocked with goods on dusty shelves, a haunting freeze frame of the moment the last person walked out the door. These empty cities are not failures, they are monuments to a specific, transformative period in history. They represent the incredible speed and ambition of an era when people were willing to risk everything in some of the most remote places on Earth. The silence in these streets is deafening, and it speaks volumes about the stories that remain. It speaks of the gold that was found, the lives that were lived, and the inevitable truth that economies, like landscapes, are subject to powerful and often uncontrollable forces. And that is the real, unvarnished truth about the empty cities of the 19th century.